and the potential for innovation partnerships between them. So today I am announcing that we have a plan to drive billions in economic development, reduce long-term costs to the city, lower greenhouse gas emissions, reduce congestion in the city, improve service on our transit system, and quite frankly, improve the service of our roads for motorists and cyclists, and improve safety, and grow transit ridership significantly within Winnipeg. We're proposing to establish here in Winnipeg in a partnership with the private sector, labor, our universities, our suppliers, our innovation and tech sector, a major urban transit innovation lab. This will create partnerships through electrification, modernization, guidance systems, and the entire range of services that support and technologies that support transit and related mobilities, and the integration and linkages into other systems. An innovation-focused frequency electrification plan will greatly reduce our costs and improve the quality of service, making our city much more livable. We are home to one of the world's, if not the world's, largest transportation bus manufacturer outside of China. We are one of the largest sectors for supply and related technologies. We have one of the largest and fastest growing information technology and smart technology systems. We are becoming a Canadian leader in the economy of the third and fourth industrial revolutions, where the Internet of Things and the virtual world, especially in the area of transportation, buildings, energy and systems, is becoming integrated, and we're using the internet to create greater value and greater service. And this is very much focused on that. There are three pillars to this policy. The first is economic development, and I'll briefly outline what that is about that. The second is service improvement, and the third is the livability and ecological resilience of our city. The creation of the Urban Surface Transportation Innovation Lab will be a driver of the electrification program and realize billions in economic activity within the province. Not only in e-bus manufacturing, but also in key sectors such as design, software, engineering, construction, energy, materials, finance, multimodal transportation, and better integration and upgrades to car share, vehicle hire services, and pedestrian cycling networks by advancing some of the research that's coming in places like University of Toronto on integrated apps, cards, and smart technology that allows us to plan a trip and have each mode of our trip being integrated. This plan would create a series of strategic partnerships with Manitoba Hydro, smart tech, planning firms, manufacturers, including design and a new design and procurement model to improve performance and reliability by moving away from just a simply low-cost bidding system to a value over the life cycle of the vehicle and of the transportation systems that we're doing. So essentially, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but one of the things that is happening in many parts of the world is that cities just don't buy a bus. They buy a bus and they buy the parts and they buy the entire package of materials. So we change on our buses about 10 windshield wipers a year. Right now we buy them individually. We custom design every single bus. We had one success. One of the reasons the buses are white, when I was mayor, you may remember we had a big fight over bus colors because they used to be orange and yellow. We saved an extraordinary amount of money by changing the paints, going to more modern paints, and going to decals and colors. There is a lot that can be done to improve the standards, designs, and durability of that. Also, moving to procure 650 electric vehicles that are zero emissions allows us for stability, allows for lower costs, and allows us to achieve a much less expensive operating system, because there are a few things more expensive than trying to manage a parallel diesel system and all the maintenance and contracts and work that's associated with a very different type of vehicle. The quicker we can get to a single technology platform, the much less expensive and the much less difficult it will be to manage our systems. The lab model is not an original idea. It is well developed in New York through the Transit Innovation Partnerships Program and the Transit Tech Lab. We're also going to be looking for partnerships with the federal government. These are private-public partnerships for public transit solutions. Companies, especially in the software sector, companies like in the field that I work in right now, when I talk to this cluster, they often talk about the idea of challenges and development challenges. So in New York, they will put out a challenge for a particular guidance system. They might put out a challenge for flex seating design to accommodate both strollers and people in wheelchairs and new technology. They will look at new guidance and fuel systems. They'll look at new ways to create 15-minute neighborhoods and better manage the last mile or the last kilometer of transportation, looking at safety systems and how we introduce technologies to do that. So the idea of the challenge program will be a very important part of this, and creating a transit tech lab should be a major accelerator for investment capital, job creation, and improving our system. The second one is service improvement. We're looking at greater frequency along 13 key transit routes for 15 hours a day service. That would be visionary and leading in North American cities of Winnipeg size that rely on surface transportation solutions, with e-buses arriving every 10 minutes on the 13 key routes, which means that most Winnipeggers would very rarely ever wait more than about 5 minutes for a bus. In a winter city, that's a blessing. This would cost about $36 million per year and would be funded largely under the federal government's commitment to predictable transit funding and the existing funding programs. Livability and ecological resilience is achieved through a line, and the third one on more walkable 15-minute neighborhoods deals with starting to integrate transportation and land use planning. All you have to do is take this route and see how few actually integrated planned neighborhoods there are on our rapid transit and compare it to other cities, where the transit system is often built into, it's linked to bike share and care share programs, it's linked to complete and walkable neighborhoods. There are densities. Often the transit system is built right into a cluster of buildings with services and a grocery store, so people can actually get on the bus without having to go outside. We are far behind from this idea of integrating both our transportation systems and rapid transit systems to get to the level of frequency that they would actually reduce congestion on Pembina Highway. So while we align our transit systems, we have done no measurement or examination of the impacts on how you design transit to reduce vehicular traffic and congestion. And all you have to do is ask anyone who's driving down Keniston exactly how much of a problem that is. Zero-emission vehicles will eliminate 100 metric tons of greenhouse gases per year per bus. Each bus can take 80 people out of cars if they are more beautiful and better designed buses. They can reduce congestion, and we have a credible revolution of what we can do with payment systems and automated payment systems to improve revenue on our systems. I talked about integration. So we have strong partnership. We are the e-bus and bus manufacturing capital of Canada. We built a system without the kind of subsidies that Nova in Quebec does. We do not yet have one electric bus on the roads yet in the city that makes more electric buses than almost anywhere else in North America. And we're trailing Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, Brampton, Thunder Bay, and Halifax. And many U.S. cities will switch their entire procurement. And China right now is outpacing us. And this is the other question from an economic development perspective. Do we want to be a maker city of the next generation of 21st technologies? Do we want jobs for our kids? Do we want the design, engineering, and systems jobs that are high quality, high value, creative jobs here? Or do we want to be a taker economy where we're buying our buses from China? We already have to compete with the Buy American program, which requires 70% of our buses to be made in the United States. These are the areas that we can get around the Buy America policy. These are the areas in which we can concentrate on. Right now, we have a system where we can't even get our bus radios to work. We can't even get proper protective gear within a decade for our drivers. We have complicated systems and supply chain issues now. We have our own supply chain issues because of the complexity of how we do procurement. We have partners in New Flyer in the tech industry waiting to drive jobs. The other way we can finance this, this is my last thing, is it's amazing. Vancouver just did a value capture, value planning. As some of you know, I run a software company that does exactly that. Works with the Canadian Institute. They're using development charges, they're using special assessments. They calculate the value uplift and they do value capture for a service mechanism. One of these lines, if it actually is designed in a way that it clusters development about it, you get huge value uplift and net new tax growth that is uniquely provoked or catalyzed by that. So in Vancouver, their study proposes that everything over 3% goes into the transit line within the capture area, where the increased value would only have happened if we had rapid transit in that area. The state of Illinois just introduced major legislation, as did Texas, as did Maryland, for small and large commuter routes on how to use district and value uplift. So this is growing the tax base, not growing the tax burden. And the city of Vancouver, the greater Vancouver region, has just put forward a policy paper before the BC government to do that. Given that we're the transit capital manufacturer of Canada, we should be using that. There could be a coffee shop in there. There could be a restaurant in there. Leasing and co-developing spaces, selling air rights. These are all ways in which we can finance this. As a matter of fact, Chicago is spending most of its red line money is coming from these things and not coming from the tax base. And Ottawa, with their own line, just did a massive study to look at how many hundreds of millions of dollars Ottawa can generate from co-development to pay for it rather than using property taxes. So I'm going to introduce two speakers right now, and then we'll go to questions. So Romeo Ignacio talks about ATU and why this is important to our transit operators in the Glen Murray.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Romeo Ignacio, the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1505. And we believe in Glen's vision. ATU Local 1505 believes that Mr. Murray's multifaceted strategy on improving our transit system will transform public transit for the better, while at the same time mitigate the impact of climate change, make public transit more attractive as the main mode of transportation, and also support our local economy. Investing in transit is investing in local business. It only makes sense to take advantage of the fact that we have an abundant, clean source of energy and one of the largest bus manufacturers in North America. Manitoba Hydro and New Flyer Industries could and should be partners in the city's infrastructure development. This will not only leverage Manitoba's economic growth, but also sustain our goal of reducing our carbon footprint. We are confident that with Glen's vision, we will achieve our climate action goals, improve accessibility and affordability of public transit, and develop a robust economy for the city of Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba. The Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1505 envisions a climate-friendly transit system that is safe, reliable, accessible, and affordable for everyone. We would also like to reaffirm our endorsement of Glen Murray. As you all know, there's some issues in the recent days, but we are endorsing Glen Murray for the mayoral candidate as well. I'll take this opportunity to officially endorse the incumbent Councillor Matt Allard. We've never had any opportunity to endorse, but we've been endorsing Councillor Allard since the Winnipeg Labour Council's endorsement. So thank you.
This will also mean complete electrification of the system within a decade and the implementation of the master transit plan in that same time frame. And towards that end, I would like to introduce one of my friends, Councillor Matt, our candidate and friend de Toronto.
Alors, merci. Je suis heureux d'être ici pour être partie de l'annonce de la campagne de Glen Murray par rapport à l'électrification ou d'aller envers un transit qui n'a plus d'émissions. Alors, sans émissions vers une économie carbone zéro qu'on a besoin de faire pour éventuellement atteindre nos buts de changement climatique. So I'm here, pleasure to be here as part of Glen Murray's announcement. We're talking about the zero emission transition to the fleet by 2030. I'm here because I believe announcements like this will lead to build the city where my children want to stay. I like announcements like this because I see them growing the tax base, and there's strategic investments that will lift our land values and will make, at the same time, make our city more livable for young people and our city more sustainable fiscally with land values going up, as well as more sustainable from a climate perspective, where we know we're going to need to reduce our dependence on carbon in an increasing way, and we know that governments will continue to encourage the decarbonization of our economy. Glenn mentioned federal funds that could be used in order for this to be completed. I recall the last time I studied the use of zero-emission buses relative to diesel. It was an old study, and back then they were competitive. And so knowing what I know now about the increase in gas prices, the new subsidies, the price on pollution, a number of factors have changed, and I can see how the value proposition, regardless of anything that's been talked about today, is there for the zero-emission transition to our bus system. So I do believe this is the right direction. I do believe investment in transit is the right direction. Every time somebody gets on a bus, that's somebody who's off the road. Most of Winnipeggers travel in single passenger automobile trips. The more people make the choice to use other modes, the better it is for our traffic circulation issues in Winnipeg. And so I see these types of investments as win-win-win. And this is why I'm here today with Glen Murray for his campaign for mayor. So I believe these are the investments where it's going to build the city where children want to live. So those are my comments. That's it.
I obviously want to see Madelard back. We need this kind of experienced leadership, and he's been fighting a hard uphill battle often to try and get our active transportation and our transit systems as a priority in the city. So we'll go to questions. I appreciate your patience. These are not simple things. They're a bit complicated. So thanks for being patient as we took the time to explain what is a rather complicated policy.